I've recently watched season 2 of Arcane, and what a blast it was. Admittedly, I think season 1 had a slightly better script and better pacing, but my god, season 2 was a visual spectacle. I particularly loved the design of the settlement of the Cult of Victor, and I wanted to make a video about it. But quickly, the video morphed into something bigger as I was looking at both Piltover and Zaun. I was wondering whether we should consider Arcane as a Solarpunk story, and what lessons it has for our own struggle against climate change. Solarpunk envisions a sustainable future where humanity lives in harmony with nature, and where technology is nurturing both to us and to the environment. There are not many titles that fit into the genre, and as we shall see, many argue over what exactly the genre is. One place that frequently comes up in the discussion around Solarpunk is Wakanda from Black Panther, where there's advanced technology integrated with nature and an anti-colonial story. Other works such as Studio Ghibli, where technology is questioned and we see both its ability to oppress but also uplift. Here we often see good guys harnessing wind, for instance. Because Solarpunk is such a new genre, and one which tries to envision a good future, it has obviously become politicized. When you search for Solarpunk, you get these shiny renders of green skyscrapers. This flips cyberpunk on its head, where technology can lead to a better future. However, others argue that we need a fundamental shift in our relation to both nature and technology, focusing on principles such as permaculture and communal living. The two cities, Zaun and Piltover, represents this divide. So let's start in Piltover, also known as the City of Progress. Piltover represents a techno-optimist view of Solarpunk. It is a gleaming Art Deco city with sunlit boulevards and manicured topiary gardens. Its skyline is defined by sculptural towers with zeppelins gliding gently between them. The Art Deco style speaks to a time in the American Roaring Twenties, a time of great technological innovation and rising prosperity. It is a decorative style that uses innovative building techniques such as glass and steel. Even its angular ornaments themselves are reminiscent of the machines. This is an overall picturesque orderliness appropriate for a bourgeois society, one that sees no fault in the status quo, where each day and each new discovery will lead to an even better society. The story of Arcane revolves around the invention of Hextech, a powerful force to be used for both good and evil. And I want to note here that the very first episode, we are shown the devastating power that Hextech have, and I think it's quite prophetic for what's to come. Hextech serves as an analogy for nuclear power, biotech, or currently AI. And the optimistic scientists obviously want to use this technology. For instance, they build the Hex Gate, a tower that allows ships to teleport in and out of the city, reducing trade costs. It becomes a main landmark, its glowing light always visible in the sky. To Jace and Victor, Hextech is necessary to help the people of Piltover and Zaun. Just like many in our world believe that technology is the only way to solve climate change, and so we develop better solar power, wind turbines, high-tech farming, and now even zeppelins are supposed to make a return. Piltover is led by a council of the wealthiest merchant families, a model likely inspired by Venice in the 14th century. They believe they are competent by virtue of having accumulated wealth, and this virtue for them supposedly outweighs the oligarchic tendencies of such a system. The council also saves seats for the scientists, Heimerdinger and Jace, which leans into this technocratic idea. In researching this video, I found that Redditors compared Jace to Elon Musk. Both are portraying themselves as genius scientists while employing better and smarter men to create their innovations, and they rely on a symbiotic relationship with oligarchic capitalist authorities. An argument made only more relevant after the election of Donald Trump. And I found this interesting link reading about the oligarchy of Venice that was headed by a position called the Doge of Venice. Most people assume Elon Musk's new Department of Government Efficiency, whose acronym is Doge, is linked to the meme and Elon's favorite cryptocurrency. However, in light of the Doge of Venice, it takes on a more sinister connotation. What I'm getting at here is that the story of Piltover is clearly not just progress and sunshine. Which brings us to Zaun. Set into the cracks in the ground is the less fortunate twin city, Zaun, literally the catch basin of the waste from the city above. Among an ominous green smog, the residents try to survive from the scraps spared to them. People here live in hardship, many suffering from disease or drug addiction. They are the people left behind by technological progress. Zaun provides a counter-argument to the techno-optimists of Piltover. There are always hidden consequences of technology that gets left out in the advertisements and the spreadsheets. Think, for instance, of the precious metals needed for solar panels and batteries. Think of the scrapyards of outdated technologies that piles up on the other side of the world. And actually, Elon Musk is relevant here again, as Tesla batteries require massive amounts of lithium, which is mined in the salt flats of Bolivia. So in Zaun, the residents take scrap metal and turn it into haphazard ornaments. These ornaments are in an Art Nouveau style, which is recognizable by these whiplash spiraling lines. They are asymmetrical and chaotic, and they look more like invasive thorny vines than the harmonic floral patterns which they were originally inspired by. Here we can see Art Nouveau becoming a proud symbol of resistance, the people of Zaun rising up like weeds. Which brings me to a settlement inside of Zaun, home to the Firelights. Here the critique of techno-optimist Solarpunk becomes propositional. These people have found shelter around a giant tree that provides clean air and which they in turn take care of. It is a community formed out of necessity, finding a way to thrive in the harsh circumstances. The community is led by Echo, not by virtue of royalty or his wealth, but by his contribution and care for the community. He leads smaller raids, stopping drug shipments as a form of guerrilla activism, to sabotage the criminal leaders of Zaun and limit the supply of drugs. Here is a culture that adopts alternative modes of living, rather than technological innovations in order to cope with a polluted world. Reminiscent of anarchist squatters that practice participatory democracy, hold community workshop to share knowledge and craft, and share resources to reduce their environmental footprint. Their anarchist approach is evident in that they do not seek to overthrow the government in Piltover or create riots. Instead, they take a more constructive approach by building a society that they want, one of mutual care and minimal living. The last place I want to highlight is the settlement formed around Victor in the second season. Its architecture is one of multicolored fractal spirals, visual echoes of the Hextech psychedelics aesthetics. While these swirling shapes recall the chaotic ornamentation of Zaun, here they carry a sense of calm and contemplative serenity, as though its inhabitants are mystics at ease with the chaos that surrounds them. In this community, Victor has become one with his followers. Clad in identical garments, they move and act without individual ambition, reflecting a collective unity. Victor's place among them calls to mind the Sufi mystic Mansur al-Hallaj, who famously declared, "I am the truth." Although this statement at first seems heretical, it should instead be understood as an annihilation of the ego, where we are all part of a divine continuum, an idea originating from Neoplatonism. This notion introduces a rich, albeit underexplored, layer to the show. In recent years, there has been a resurgence in spiritual thought that questions our purely materialistic worldview. Proponents argue that merely criticizing capitalism is not enough to deal with the coming climate change. We need a deeper and metaphysical shift. We must move away from seeing the world as a stockpile of resources to be exploited and instead recognize the very being of things. So, to conclude, Is Arcane solarpunk? I think we can safely say yes, although it is not a clear-cut statement of how we should live. Instead, it invites us to grapple with what solarpunk even means. It showcases tensions between top-down techno-utopianism and bottom-up communal resilience, between faith in innovation and wariness in its unintended consequences. Arcane doesn't simply say yes or no. It shows that solarpunk, like any vision of the future, is complicated. It's an ongoing conversation, one that must reckon with inequality, power structure, cultural values, and the hard work of tending new growths in old soils. I hope you liked this video, and thank you for watching.